All right. Testing, testing, testing. Can you guys hear me all right? Doc or BD, do you guys have your mics on? If you could let me know that I'm sounding okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, you're good.
Perfect, perfect. All right, let me share my screen here and then we'll get this thing going. Here we go. Let me move this over. Oh, whoops. Let's do this here. All right, perfect. Here we go. Let's get the oh shoot. Get the showdown up here. Sorry about that. All right, we got an interesting game on our hands. 10.5 point spread in favor of the Chiefs. I think most people, including myself, are expecting Chiefs to kind of, I was going to say steamroll, maybe not that bad. 10.5 points in the grand scheme of things is not that much. Like if the Chiefs win by 10 points, the game is going to play pretty competitively. So while I think most people expect a blowout, I would just say that, the spread is a lot smarter than I am. And so I would tend to just agree with what the spread has, and a 10 to 14 point game would make the game play pretty competitively. So I think there's an interesting a couple interesting leverage spots. I know we discussed it earlier in the chat, but I'll start with the Broncos running backs here, kind of all priced in the mid range. Javonte Williams 7,200, Jaleel McLaughlin 7,000, McLaughlin, excuse me, I snuck a G in there, and Samaje P Ryan. Now I don't have a strong lean on any of these guys and what their role is going to be. I think since the last time Javonte Williams played, that McLaughlin has sort of played himself into a role. And so I think it's going to be a split. Now, what that split is between the three of them, I truthfully don't have a strong lean. However, I will say that their ownership is what has me very interested. I think it's possible that one of these guys breaks out, and it just kind of depends on the rest of your lineup on which one I'd play personally. If you think the game plays competitively, I think that bodes better for Javonte Williams. He's kind of been the guy who has had the most rushes when all three are active. But I know me and BD were talking earlier, and he brought up P. Ryan's snap share. I will take that, or I would take that with a grain of salt, just because McLaughlin didn't play a lot, and I know especially in that first game. But I'm not, don't think he played much in the second game either. And then over these last 2-3 games, I think that he's really played himself into deserving more snaps. Whether that comes to fruition tonight, I have no idea, but I do think there's several ways that one of these guys can get there, and it's probably through the route of one of them getting 3, 4, maybe even 5 catches. And again, if you are building for a Chiefs blowout, like a Chiefs onslaught, I think McLaughlin fits a lot better in those lineups, because if there's any sort of garbage time, I can almost guarantee it that McLaughlin is getting all of those snaps. I don't think they're going to play Javonte Williams coming off an injury. Samaje P. Ryan, they signed to a pretty sizable deal for a backup running back in the offseason. So I don't think that he would play in a blowout. I think it would be all McLaughlin. And he, has had good targets over the last several weeks. And you can see, 2-game sample size, but over 18 points, 17.9, and then 19.4 over the last 2 weeks. And that was with Javonte out, and obviously that's helped by touchdowns. He was able to get in the end zone, but 3 receptions on both, 9 attempts and 7 attempts. So yeah, I think he's interesting. I think he's interesting, to say the least. It's not someone I'm going all in on. I think I have 15% right now, and you can see him coming in at less than 9%. And that's really my selling point on him, is just the ownership. So I think he fits much better for MME stuff. If you're playing, several lineups, I would want to get at least one in there with him. But if he was coming in, higher than this, if he was in the 20% range, I wouldn't really have much interest. It's strictly an ownership play. But I think the other guys are interesting too. I think Javonte Williams and Samaje P. Ryan are both guys that can, score a touchdown, get a few targets, and add some rushes as well. And neither one is going to come with very much ownership. They're kind of in this pricing range that makes it tough to play them. So I'm making sure to have exposure to all these guys. I'm about even with the field on Williams and P. Ryan, and then I'm coming in a little bit over McLaughlin. Again, I think they fit much better for MME stuff rather than like single entry, but I think it's a good leverage play. We'll stick with the Broncos. I think Jerry. Classic. Yeah, I know they're not exciting plays at all. They're really not. McBobo, between those three, do you like any of them, or are you just passing on all three?
I definitely like the logic on playing himself into a role. McLaughlin there. Sean Payton is not a bad football coach, if anyone wasn't aware. And I think despite the troubles that they're having and the unhappy union between Payton and Danger Russ, I think they're going to make some adjustments. And he's definitely used a lot of interesting pieces down with the Saints in his offensive scheming. So yeah, McLaughlin is definitely got potential, but I actually like Perrine here. I think he has a better opportunity as a pass catching back. I like what he did backing up over there in Cincinnati. I thought he was very efficient in his role, and I think that could give a unique dynamic to the Broncos offense, which needs an injection of really anything at this point. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have it's a fair point by McBobo. We have a much larger sample size of Sean Payton being a good head coach than we have of him being a bad head coach. And I feel like I'm always telling you guys, don't react to small samples. Don't react to small samples. So that's a very fair point. And I have Samaje P. Ryan's stats up here for these these first 5 games, excuse me. And you can see he's very consistent, and especially by way of the targets, which McBobo mentioned too. At least he has one game with 2 targets against the Bears. I think they were trailing for the majority of that game, and that's when McLaughlin really was in the game a lot. And but if you expect this game to play competitive, or just like Broncos, being down 10 points, like the spread would suggest, then I think that P. Ryan is going to get some rushes and definitely going to get in the 3-4 target range. So, and he's cheaper. He's $2,000 cheaper than those other 2 guys too. So you could save a little bit of money there. So, yeah, I think that's an interesting call. I'd love to get Doc in here if you have. All right, I know you got your voice on because you did the check for me. Is there any? I'd love to get your leverage play for the night, or the guy that you think is not getting played enough.
Yeah, I think the talking heads are already on this one for the most part, but it's got to be Kadarius Toney for me. I mean, it seems so obvious. 4K, probably the most talented wide receiver. I think Rashid Rice is going to get steamed up to high heaven today, and he's 2,400 more expensive, and you're getting about the same receiver either way, talent-wise. It's just that people have that vivid memory of all those drop passes. Kadarius Toney's going to be my most exposed captain tonight. No question about it.
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. I also have a ton of Toney right now, and I honestly am like, what's that, McBobo?
I'm saying here on Kadarius.
Yeah.
I don't know what's in the water today. We're all on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and as you can see, sorry, go ahead, Doc.
No, I think it's more of a shark play, but I don't think the public's going to be anywhere near that. I still think he'll be under 5% owned at the captain spot in the main tourney. I think Rashid Rice is going to be pushing like 10. Honestly.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. For sure, like just off, I have Toney and Rice with a similar projection. So if you get any sort of a discount ownership wise on Toney, then I think that's phenomenal. And even if you don't, I'll say, like, even if, he comes in a little bit higher than we're expecting, 4K for someone that we expect to be, involved in the offense and already has 3 games with 5 or more targets at 4K is just really good in my opinion. They also scheme him plays too. So he's kind of a gadget sort of player, and so I don't think he's one of those guys too. I don't expect him, if the weather is bad. I mentioned this earlier in chat. If the weather's bad, I don't expect him to be affected much because a lot of his routes are run close to the line of scrimmage. And they scheme him stuff too, like I mentioned. So I think he's a very safe bet for 2-3 catches and probably in the 4-5 target range. So I like Tony quite a bit too. I actually had to dock him in my runs because I was getting like 70 or 80%, and I didn't want that much. But I am definitely going to be over the field, so I like that call from Doc for sure. I'll bring up one more spot that I think is a good one for leverage purposes, and we are just discussing Jerry Jeudy in chat here. I think that his pricing makes it really, really tough to fit him, and for that reason, I don't think he's going to get played much, especially when you can save $1,200 and drop down to Sutton, who has a similar projection. I think Jerry Jeudy has the easier of the matchup in the slot compared to on the outside with Sutton. Now Jerry Jeudy hasn't done much to make us have confidence in him this year, but does have all four of his games, the last 4 games, with 5 or more targets. This is just a 1-game sample. I don't think he hasn't gotten in the end zone this year. It's literally, if he turns one of these catches into a touchdown here, you're looking at a 19-point game here, or a 14-point game, or a 17-point game here. So it's a matter of just getting in the end zone, and if that can happen, I think it's really good leverage just from an ownership perspective. So I think Jeudy is another interesting guy, not someone I'm jamming in. And if you're playing single entry, it's a tough click for sure at $9,000, because if you play Jeudy at 9K, you're very likely fading 2 of these guys in Mahomes, Kelsey, Wilson, and Pacheco. And I know those guys are all going to be extremely popular and are much easier clicks than Jeudy. So I everything that I'm saying here is strictly based off of ownership and his potential. I think Jeudy is more talented than what we've seen this year. He's obviously a very high draft pick a few years ago. So a Jeudy ceiling game is not out of the question, I don't think at all. Well, yeah, I think, one other piece that I wanted to cover is the Chiefs defense. I have a feeling that they're going to get overplayed tonight. You guys know, people that have tuned into the stream, I know how I feel about defenses, especially in showdown. And especially when they're priced up like this. I mean, 5,600 just makes it really, really tough for them to pay off their price tag. It's almost like you need a few different things to happen. You need Denver to not score, and you also need them to get sacks or interceptions or a defensive touchdown. And so you're just kind of asking a lot. And if they come with ownership too, then that's a whole nother caveat. So, I'm trying to come in lower than Chiefs defense, or lower on Chiefs defense, excuse me. Now, if you're building for a Chiefs onslaught, like if you have a 5-1 build and 5 Chiefs, 1 Bronco, I do think that Chiefs defense makes sense in those builds. But I'll also say that I think that's going to be the majority of lineups that have the Chiefs defense are going to build the same way. So you're kind of like, pigeonholing yourself into the same sort of build as everyone else. So I'm not a big fan of Chiefs defense. I would much rather go up and play Rice even more, honestly. Like I know Moore has been terrible this season too, but I'd rather play a guy who has a lot more touchdown equity than the Chiefs defense. So, or go down to P. Ryan, like we talked about. Even Butker, Butker and Kansas City, I could see them coming around the same ownership, and you can save $800 by dropping down. And I think Butker is a better play straight up. So, I'm a little hesitant on the Chiefs defense, to be honest, tonight. Let's get these guys back in here. McBobo, do you want to? Is there anyone we haven't discussed yet that you'd like to talk about?
Let's see. Tight end situation in Denver. I see Dulcich has had any tags removed, and he is sitting at tight end 1. That's kind of interesting because I was looking at Troutman as a low price play on the Broncos side, going with some heavy Kansas City stacks, and considering what the connection was between Dulcich and Wilson last year, that makes me fairly concerned for what Troutman's role, if any, is going to be tonight. Um, so I'm not so strong on that now. I think this is more so a question. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's a really interesting like puzzle piece for tonight. I with Dulcich back, it's pretty much removed Troutman from play for me across my 20 lineups. I don't have any Troutman, but I do like Dulcich. I think the fact that he was taken off the injury report, not coming in with an injury designation,
Okay.
I shouldn't. I'm not 100% sure if he was removed injury designation. I do know that he's active tonight, and I will just say he's only played in that very first game, and he only played the first 21 snaps, but they get 2 targets on those 21 snaps. They ended up having 64 snaps total, so small sample. I hate to say he was on pace for this, but in that game you could make the case that he was going to get 5-6 targets. And if you go look at Troutman in that game after Dulcich left, 5 targets in that game. And also, since Dulcich has not been there, Troutman also has a 5-target game last week. And obviously, I think Dulcich is a more talented receiving tight end than Troutman is. Troutman more of a profiles more as like a blocking tight end. So Dulcich, I like him. 3,200. Let me see what I have his, how much I have of him right now. Oh man, can't find his name. Oh, here he is. I have 25% right now. So yeah, about a quarter of my lineups. Yeah, I'm a fan. I think he's cheap enough to get there. He's one of those dudes, if he falls in the end zone at his price, he's going to pay it off. And he could even, have 3, 4, 5 catches and he's there too. So a couple different ways he gets there. Obviously the game script fits a little bit better for these Denver pass catchers too. So yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I like Dulcich a bit. Doc, do you have anyone that we haven't discussed yet that you'd like to talk about?
I don't know if we've talked about Pacheco too much, but I think he's a pretty obvious play, especially with some questionable weather and a little bit underutilized captain. And also, I want to bring to note Brandon Johnson. I don't know. This is basically a creator player to me. I've never heard his name before tonight. But this guy, he is getting steamed up like crazy. I think this is going to be one of those plays that just gets blown out of proportion by the Sims. So I would be cautious with him in 5-1 builds. Honestly, I think his ownership's going to be much higher than you would expect for that type of player.
Yeah, I agree with both sentiments there. We should have covered Pacheco, so I'm glad you brought him up. Pacheco is just... it looks really, really good, especially like the game script, the weather, the spread, everything's sort of working in his favor. You can see this workload that he's had, especially over these last 4 weeks. And all 4 of these games, playing with a lead or the game was competitive. The only game where they were sort of trailing was in this Lions game, and you can see still got 12 opportunities in that game. But since then, he's just been on fire, especially these last 3 weeks. 18 opportunities, 23 opportunities, and then 17 opportunities in those last 3. I think he's in a great spot. A good bet to score a touchdown too. I think he's only at slight plus odds, might even be at negative odds in some books, meaning he's more favored to score a touchdown than not, depending on where you're looking. But yeah, Pacheco is a great call. I think at $9,400 you could make the case that he's slightly underpriced there. But yeah, I like that a lot. And then Brandon Johnson, the creative player, which I really like that term. Yeah, I agree. I think that he's going to get steamed up a bit. You can see over the last 2 weeks, especially the snaps, not really there. Played about half the snaps last week. The week before that, played about a third of the snaps. And in each of those games, only got 1 target. Now, I think the reason that he's going to get steamed up is because he's so cheap. And people, I think a lot of times people are looking for their one, Broncos player, and they're trying to jam in all of these Chiefs expensive players, and they see a $1,200 receiver that's projecting pretty well. It's kind of an easy click. But Doc is right. When you see those easy clicks, a lot of times those guys get steamed up, and their ownership ends up coming higher than what they're projected. So I'm in agreement with both things he just said there. I think we had a couple interesting questions. This one from Taxi. He said, do you have a single line with Denver defense, 40-mile-per-hour gusts, and their poor performance up to this point, but seems like it could be a reasonable low-owned play? Yeah, to be honest with you, Taxi, I don't have any Denver defense right now. If their defense had looked like any somewhat good, in any of these games, I probably would. And maybe I should have one, just across my 20 lineups. But as of right now, I don't have any. But now that you're saying that, I do think it is an interesting way to build, to just kind of, flip the build on its head and maybe go with the 4-2 Broncos build that includes the Denver defense. They're $3,000. So if this game is ugly, if it's low scoring, and Denver's able to pull out a win, or, they get a defensive touchdown, I think that could really work in their favor. And kind of the difference between them and Kansas City defense is their price. I mean, it's almost double the price for Kansas City. You just need a lot less from the defense when you're paying $3,000 compared to $5,600. So it's definitely a fair point by Taxi. I don't have any right now, but now that I'm saying it out loud, I probably will sneak them into one lineup across my 20. And then I do see Fletch. I see your lineup. I'm going to get to that right after. I'll just discuss these cheap guys down here. We just talked about Brandon Johnson, but I do think Justin Watson and Justin Ross for the Chiefs are interesting cheap pieces. Justin Ross is $600. The snaps have not been there. This is like definitely a MME type play. If you're probably only 150, I'm not sure. I think I have one lineup with him across my 20. But does, 4 targets last week on his six snaps too, which is kind of crazy. I'm not sure when those targets came, if it was maybe without Kelsey or whatnot, but he's a talented guy. And I believe he's a rookie. Don't quote me on that, but I'm almost positive he's a rookie. And I had one more note on him, but it's escaping me. But definitely a large field play. I wouldn't go there in single entry. Justin Watson, I think, is a little bit safer. Not someone I'm jamming in there, but if you want someone who's like almost assuredly going to get a target or two, I think he can feel pretty good about Watson. He does play on a decent amount of snaps too, and you can see he has one game with one target, but outside of that, he has at least 3 targets in all the other games, and decent yardage. On those games with at least 3 targets, he has at least 45 yards in all of them. So I think he's, of the cheap guys, of the below probably Dulcich, I would say Watson is probably my favorite of the bunch, and he is someone that I would consider in single entry. Just because of his price, I don't think he's going to come with much ownership. It's kind of a boring click, not really a sexy play, to be honest, but I think he can get there, especially at 2,200. All right. Blake, I just saw you jump in here. I know Blake usually has his mic on. Are you with us, Blake?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm just at the gym, so I had to hop on late.
Oh, yeah. No, hey, no better place to build lineups than the gym, in my opinion. So that's awesome. If you have any overall arcing thoughts on the slate or opinions on the slate, go ahead, Blake. And if we're if we're taking you from your pump, please just tell me to F off.
No, you're good. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me to come up with any strong leans just because the slate's kind of just a weird one for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just playing like single entry, so I think I'm just gonna jam in Pacheco captain, and then dude, get away from me. My girlfriend, that's trying to mess with me. Sorry. Yeah, I'm jamming in like Kels, Mahomes, Pacheco. I don't know. I'm just gonna jam in 3 studs like that, and then just try to differentiate with the rest. I mean, I don't want to give away my lineup, but yeah, I don't really have any like overall thoughts.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great strategy. Doc already brought up Pacheco being slightly underowned in the captain spot, so can't argue with the Pacheco captain, and obviously Mahomes, Kelsey is a very easy click too. So yeah, can't argue with that. And I see Audi in here. Audi, do you have your mic on or no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any last minute thoughts before we get into sports trivia?
I missed like the last 5 minutes or so, but I don't know if you touched on Marvy at all, Marvin Mims.
No, go
Did you
ahead
guys
on
touch
him.
on him at all?
No, go ahead.
I mean, that's just a big play waiting to happen right there. I'm seeing 10% ownership. I think that's wild. How many touchdowns do you have? He must have like 4 or 5 on the season. Like, you got to get this man the ball, especially in a negative game script. Throwing bombs to him all day. And Russell
Yeah.
Wilson, I think, is underpriced. And
He-
I'm trying to stay away from Kelsey for that price too.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mims only 1 touchdown in the season. I'm with you. I thought he had more than that too. I think it's because he's been involved in some really big plays. But even in the, or you know what? How did he get 16 points here?
He had
Was that
special
on
teams
a?
touchdown, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
special
what it was. You're right. That's how, because I was looking at this box score. He's got 3 for 73, and then somehow ended up with 16.6. But you're right. That was the special teams touchdown there. So, yeah, a couple different ways he can get there. And you're right, he is a deep ball threat too, so doesn't need very much to pay off. And that pricing at 4,600 is going to keep his ownership in check. So yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. I don't think I have any of. Oh no, I do have some. I have 10% right now. So yeah, he's one of those guys for sure. I think you'd want to pair him with Russell Wilson because, like we mentioned, his route to success is a long play, and if he has a long play that goes, especially if it goes for a touchdown, you're going to want Russell Wilson paired with him too. So yeah, good call there, Audi. I'm glad you brought him up. All right, we're running a little long, which is sort of my thing as of late.
Tristan, can I add one quick thing?
Oh, please, yeah, BD. I didn't realize your mic was on. Absolutely, go ahead.
Nope. I'll make it quick. I just read that the wind is going goalpost to goalpost, and Butker was hitting 65-yard field goals. I know it's fish plays, but this is one of those slates where it's going to feel like everyone's going to tilt. The kickers are going off and win games.
Yeah.
And because it's going goalpost to goalpost, it actually helps the kickers because this stadium doesn't really gust like other stadiums. Doesn't swirl.
Perfect. Yeah, no,
Just
very.
thought I'd throw in my kicker knowledge.
No, I appreciate it, BD. Yeah, there we go. Round of applause.
This is
for
my
BD.
first time hearing BD talk.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
That was
usually,
amazing.
Usually we're just talking about BD when he's not here, but yeah, it's good to get his input. And that actually it's very on brand for BD to talk about the kickers, but that's very good information there. Obviously, goalpost to goalpost is a lot better for the kickers than if it was sweeping across the field, and can actually, dictate whether a team is willing to take a longer field goal or not. So, and I already mentioned I like Butker better than Chiefs defense straight up. And so BD's information there definitely plays into that even more. So yeah, great call. Thanks BD for jumping in. Appreciate all you guys jumping in and helping me cover this slate. It always makes it a lot better when we have multiple people sharing their opinions. So let's get to Fletch's lineup up here, and then we'll do some sports trivia. He's got Tony at the captain, and then in flex, Butker, Jerry Jeudy, Kelsey, Mahomes, and Pirine. No notes here for me. Fletch, I really like this. This is how some of my lineups are looking. We already discussed, me and Doc discussing, and McBobo all discussing how much we like Tony at that price tag, and obviously getting Mahomes and Kelsey in there with Butker, who we just discussed. I like the Jeudy play from a leverage and ownership standpoint, and then those running backs. Again, I don't think anyone's going to play those guys, so I think you're going to get 2 really low owned pieces from the Broncos. And then it's definitely possible. And the Pacheco fade is an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see what Pacheco's ownership comes in at. But this, I have no notes here, Fletch. I think this is a really strong lineup. So nice work there and good luck. All right, guys, let's get into some sports trivia. I have 3 questions today for the guys on the mic. You know the deal. If you know the answer, don't say it out loud or else you'll be disqualified. You have to type it into the chat just so everyone is on the same page. All right. If you're on YouTube, get over to the Discord. I have the link posted in the comments. Get over to the Discord so you can win some money potentially. All right, here we go. 3 questions. Here's the first one. What were the Kansas City Chiefs called in the AFL? Before the AFL-NFL merger, what were the Kansas City Chiefs called? I need the name and the city. Oh, Audi, very nice. And Kate was right behind. Very nice. Fire emojis for Audi, and we'll give a check mark for Kate there, just coming in just behind Audi. Very nice. Yeah, it was. I thought that was an interesting one when I was looking it up. Before they were the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFL, they were called the Dallas Texans, which is kind of a combination of two current teams, which I thought was kind of funny and interesting. But yeah, nice work there, Audi. I think I have your information, but maybe just send it to me. Oh yeah, we'll throw some Dolphins emojis. Big Dolphins fan, Audi is. Throw some Dolphins emojis on his too. Yeah, absolutely. Audi, send me your Venmo or Cash App just in case I don't have it. If I do have it in our recent chat, then don't worry about it. I'll get it to you.
Venmoing me $5 like every week, dude.
I Venmo a lot of people with the trivia, so I apologize.
No,
I apologize. Yeah, don't worry about sending it to me. I'll get it to you. All right, second question. Which team drafted John Elway? I need the name and the city for this too. Which team drafted John Elway? Fantasy Sports King. Only right that Fantasy Sports King gets this since he's so helpful with the trivia. And actually the third question that I have came from Fantasy Sports King. I had already looked up a couple and then he sent a third. So I'm glad that he was able to get one. And no Dolphins there. Our guy, Fantasy Sports King, is a Lions fan. So we're throwing Lions emojis for Fantasy Sports King. Our Lions, as I like to describe them.
The Chicago Beats?
So, yeah, Chicago Beats. Hey, that's only right for you too, McBobo, since you've been on the ones and twos with the Beats over the last couple of live streams. So that only makes sense too. Chicago Beats. Yes, and Kate right behind once again. Very nice, Kate. That is the correct answer. Kate's gonna get one of these for sure. I can feel it. So thank you, Kate. Fantasy Sports King, I got your info, so you're good as well. I'll send it to you. Audi and Fantasy Sports King so far. All right, third and final question. And this one is from Fantasy Sports King. I'm glad he got the last one because he's not allowed to participate in this one, but we do appreciate him and how much he contributes in the chat in general, but also especially for the trivia. He's always asking me if I need help with questions, which is super helpful. So thank you. All right. Last one. Here we go. And this is a good one. This is a really good one. Which starting Chiefs quarterback besides Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith was the last one to beat the Broncos? Which starting Chiefs quarterback besides Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith was the last one to beat the Broncos? Someone that started and finished the game. So Audi, this is pretty good. It's not the correct answer because Matt Moore did come in for a game where Mahomes got injured, and Fantasy Sports King made sure to let me know about that.
Dolphins legend Matt Moore. Never forget.
Dolphins level Matt Moore, absolutely. Matt Castle's also a good guess, but not the correct one. Ethan, Montana, no. Taylor Swift, no. Yeah, this is a great hint from Fantasy Sports King. It's not a player that you associate with him being on this team. It's not, when you think of this guy, he's not a guy that you think that he was on the Chiefs, to be honest. And another good one. He loves to rep blue and orange. The teams that you would think of him being on, the Broncos and the Bears. When I think of this player, I think of Broncos and Bears. Think of a quarterback. Rex Grossman's a good guess, and East of Ethan gets it right here. Yeah, Kyle Orton. Oh, and McBobo was right behind. Play the want for us if you have it, McBobo. But yeah, right behind. Very nice. Yeah, with Fantasy Sports King with the class. There you go. Right on cue. Very nice. I know I have Ethan's information, and only right that Ethan gets it too because he Randy Orton, yeah. Only right that Ethan gets it because he forwarded his winnings last week to someone else, which was the Packers, the Lambeau Leap question. So thank you to Ethan. Good karma coming around to Ethan. Absolutely. There you go with the RKO. Very nice. All right,
Kyle
guys.
Orton got paid. God,
Say
I
that
remember
again,
that.
McBubba.
Didn't Kyle get a contract? He was riding off of Peyton Manning's broke neck, didn't he?
I believe so. Yeah, he had a pretty nice contract, if I remember. Yeah, with the Broncos.
He was
So
worth it.
yeah,
He was worth it.
one of those guys that probably got paid more than he deserved based off a small sample, and that goes back to what I always say: don't read too much into small samples, right? So, yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna jump out of here. I got to get my lineups together. Yeah, taxi right on cue. All right, let's let Tristan hop off so he can go put Denver D in all of his lineups. Yep, absolutely. Thank you to BD, Audi, Blake, Doc, and McBobo. I don't think I'm missing anyone. Thank you to you guys for jumping on chat with me or on the voice channel, and thank you to everyone else that interacted too. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you get in the Discord so you have some chance at some sports trivia winnings next time. All right. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it, and good luck tonight.
Good luck.
Good luck.